Sitting on the BT couch with Education Minister Peter Fassbender. First of all, thank you for being here.
I'm delighted to be here.
We have to reiterate that we did invite BCTF President Jim Iker to join us in studio. The union declined. You said you would come here for what will be a difficult conversation because there's much to cover and there are very, very frustrated, not just parents, teachers, but also voters in this province. Why is it, in your opinion, or from your view, that it is 2 months of what seemed like opportunity that has turned out to be futility and so few meetings between these two sides?
You know, Jody, the difficulty for me is when I say something, then Mr. Iker says the opposite, and the public sits there and says, why are they, well, that's the nature of labor disputes. Either side has their position. I will say without any hesitation, and the facts speak for itself, and Mr. Cameron, who's the head negotiator, will speak to this. We were prepared to negotiate. However, the BCTF to date has not brought a comprehensive response to the offer we put on the table in June, which had a fair wage increase for teachers that reflected other public sector unions, that had provisions to deal with class size and composition, not asking the BCTF to give up any of their rights that might come out of the court case whenever that reaches its conclusion.
So is that rumor and rhetoric that the teachers are stating that the government wants that completely torn up, that 2 BC Supreme Court rulings are to be sort of nullified moving forward?
It's blatant misrepresentation of the truth. It really is. When I met with Mr. Iker face-to-face in my office and I put a proposal forward that would have allowed us to open schools today, to have students back in the classroom, to have teachers back earning a salary, because I'm as sensitive about the impact on teachers and their lives. I see the stories of teachers that are facing hardships.
Now, I find this interesting. You said you were at the table with BCTF President Jim Iker, and up to this point, with every time we've had a conversation, you said, I'm not at the table.
Well,
when did that meeting happen?
I didn't say I was at the negotiating table.
Right, but this is negotiation.
I invited him and Mr. Cameron, the chief negotiators, to come to my office. I had a proposal as Minister of Education on behalf of everyone that said, can we set aside the strike and lift out the lockout provisions, because they're both there, for a 2-week period, if we're in mediation with Mr. Reddy, so that we can have students back in class, which is absolutely the goal here,
right,
but not at any cost. And so I put that forward.
And what did they say?
Mr. Iker said no.
No or no but? Or?
I said, would you poll your members? Would you go out to your membership and say, are we willing to set it aside? I'm not asking you to give up your right to strike. I'm asking you to set it aside. I said to BCPC, will we lift the lockout provisions for the same period of time? If at the end of that 2-week intensive period, we weren't able, with Mr. Reddy's help, to come to a negotiated settlement, then the union had its opportunity to re-engage in its strike. Same thing with the lockout provision. I felt it was a fair proposal. Now, on the court case issue, I said, let's set aside the grievances that come from the court case while it runs its course. I'm not asking you to give away any rights that may come out of that. We'll deal with it at the time.
Which is October.
Which October, or then, and I said to Mr. Iker, I said, I believe we'll win the appeal. I suspect you will want to then ask for leave to appeal to the Supreme Court because you'll disagree with that ruling. So how long is it going to take? I don't know. But in the meantime, let's get education moving forward.
Okay, speaking of timelines, the website is up and running for parents to register for the $40 per day while this strike is ongoing. The issue now is that that $40 per day is not going to be paid out until after the strike ends.
Yeah, and
how does that help parents?
Well, the challenge is they know what's coming. I even believe there are community groups that I've heard about that said, we're going to provide daycare, we're going to charge whatever it is, $40 a day. We know that you as a parent with a child that fits into that category will get it. You will sign a note saying that you will pay us as soon as you get paid. I mean...
But does that help the person living paycheck to paycheck who can't make their rent now? now?
I understand that difficulty, I really do. But, you know, we also have to be very careful to make sure that the people who deserve to get it, and those that don't.
It just seems like a distant future carrot for those who can't make it to work today.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and I fully understand that. Ministry of Finance has worked very hard to move this process as carefully and as properly as they can, but I understand that's an issue, and I don't know how to solve that because I don't think the mechanism is there to do it any faster.
Okay, let's talk about John Horgan of the NDP calling for your resignation if this can't be resolved. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I said yesterday, and it was a little facetious, but I meant it. I declined their suggestion. I have a job to do on behalf of the province of British Columbia. The Premier has given me the responsibility to suggest that she's not involved is absolutely not true. I mean, anybody who thinks that the Premier is disengaged just doesn't understand.
From a public perspective, and a lot of people talking about this, it feels like Christy Clark is very difficult to find right now. And is Twitter the right way to go about communicating with the people of this province, whether they be parents, teachers, or just simply taxpayers that want answers from the Premier?
Well, if you look at the Twitter world, the BCTF is twittering and has been. My Twitter account blew up because of some of the things that came on my Twitter account. So, you know, here is the bottom line. The Premier is the Premier. She appoints ministers to look after responsibilities. I report to her. I report to Cabinet. She is not disengaged. She knows exactly what is going on. We have been on the phone. But my job as Education Minister is to be the spokesperson on behalf of government and to communicate to people. And that's why when I was accused of breaking the blackout because I was communicating, I said to myself, I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. I have a responsibility to the parents, to the teachers, and to the taxpayers. And the government and the Premier are solidly behind what I am expressing. I don't go off on my own and make decisions. We do that as a team. And that's the beauty of this government. We've got a great team with a great leader. But
Christy Clark, you have to address the fact that she once held the position you have today and made decisions that not just ruffled feathers, but caused great strife for many parents and teachers in this province, and now it feels as though she's disengaged. What do you say to those who feel like this government is just not listening?
Well, I am listening. Premier's listening. The Cabinet is listening. Our caucus is listening. I've spent a lot of time trying to communicate fairly, as honestly as I can, from my heart, on behalf of this government. And, you know, people make judgments because of emotions, and I get that. I understand that. I feel it.
You have grandchildren in public school, or right now waiting for public schools to open. There are going to be many people who are stopping by your constituency office this evening. Do you plan to be there?
No, I don't. You know, again, I think what happens in these situations is that emotions get high, and people have yelled at me. They've accused me of all kinds of things. I have a job to do. I'm trying to communicate as effectively as I can through the media. I've been as available as I can be.
You have been. This is true. And we appreciate it. And we appreciate you coming here to answer the tough questions. And hopefully we can find a resolution to this so you can come here one day and tell us how brilliantly the new plan, whatever that might be, has our kids back in school. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate having you here.